There's a moment when you realize you've been living inside a prison. Not one with bars or walls, but something far more subtle and dangerous. A prison made of repeated thoughts, familiar emotions, and the same daily choices. You wake up, check your phone, feel the same worries, follow the same routines. Day after day, you collapse the exact same reality, wondering why nothing ever changes. But here's the part that'll shake you to your core. Quantum physics has proven that infinite versions of your life exist right now. There's a timeline where you're abundant, healthy, confident, free. There's a version where you've already overcome every struggle you're facing. These aren't fantasies. They're scientific realities vibrating in the quantum field, waiting for you to align with them. The question isn't whether these realities exist. The question is why you keep choosing the same limited one. What if I told you that the version of yourself who has everything you desire is trying to get your attention right now? What if the only thing standing between you and that reality is your willingness to stop being who you've always been? Most people live their entire lives in one narrow slice of possibility, never realizing they're the observer who gets to choose which reality becomes real. But you're here because something inside you knows there's more. Something deeper than hope, stronger than wishful thinking. You can feel it, can't you? That pull toward a life that feels too good to be true, yet somehow inevitable. This isn't about positive thinking or manifesting techniques you've tried before. This is about the science of consciousness itself, and why your biology has been fighting against the very changes you desperately want. But once you understand what's really happening, once you see how the quantum field actually responds to human awareness, everything changes. Are you ready to discover why you've been stuck in the same timeline, and more importantly, how to jump into the one where you're already free? Most people think quantum jumping is some mystical concept, but it's rooted in hard science that'll completely flip your understanding of reality. The observer effect in quantum physics shows that particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until they're observed. The act of observation collapses all possibilities into one reality. You are the observer of your own life, and whatever you focus on with emotional intensity becomes your experienced reality. Here's where it gets mind-bending. Electrons can literally jump from one energy level to another without traveling through the space in between. They disappear from one location and instantly appear in another. Scientists call this quantum tunneling, and it happens billions of times per second in your own body. If particles can jump between states instantaneously, why can't your consciousness do the same thing? The double-slit experiment proved something that shattered the foundation of classical physics. When scientists observed particles, they behaved like solid matter. When no one was watching, they behaved like waves of infinite possibility. Your attention doesn't just influence reality, it creates it. Every moment you're choosing which version of infinite possibilities becomes your lived experience. Dr. Joe Dispenza discovered something revolutionary through brain imaging technology. Your body doesn't know the difference between an experience you're having and one you're vividly imagining. When you truly feel the emotions of your desired reality before it happens, your biology starts shifting immediately. Your brain releases different chemicals, your cells receive new signals, your DNA expression changes. You're literally rewiring your neural networks to match a future that hasn't happened yet. Bruce Lipton's research in epigenetics revealed that your genes aren't your destiny. Less than 2% of disease is caused by genes alone. The other 98% comes from environmental signals, and you control the most important environment of all, your internal one. Your thoughts create the chemical environment that controls which genes get activated. When you live in survival mode, constantly stressed and fearful, you're sending signals that keep you trapped in limitation. But when you shift into growth mode, feeling gratitude and possibility before you have evidence, your biology opens doorways to healing and transformation. Your cells start producing different proteins, your immune system strengthens, your brain creates new neural pathways. You're not just thinking differently, you're becoming biologically different. The quantum field isn't some abstract concept. It's the invisible energy that connects everything in the universe. It responds to coherence, the alignment between your thoughts, emotions, and energy. When these three elements point in the same direction, you create what scientists call a coherent electromagnetic signal. And this signal literally reorganizes matter at the quantum level to match your internal state. This is why some people can heal from terminal illnesses while others with perfect health suddenly get sick. It's not random, it's not luck, it's the quantum field responding to the dominant signal being broadcast by their consciousness. Your thoughts aren't just in your head, they're creating the reality you experience. And once you understand this, you realize you've had the power to jump timelines all along. Here's where most people get stuck, and it's not what you think. They try to think their way into a new reality while carrying the emotional residue of the old one. They want abundance but vibrate scarcity. They desire love but broadcast fear. The quantum field doesn't respond to what you want. It mirrors what you consistently feel and embody. But there's something even deeper happening that explains why transformation feels so difficult. You're chemically addicted to being yourself. Every emotion you feel regularly creates a specific chemical cocktail in your body. When you're stressed, your body releases cortisol and adrenaline. When you're grateful, it produces serotonin and dopamine. When you're angry, it floods with norepinephrine. Your cells develop receptor sites for these familiar chemicals, and they literally crave them like a drug. This is why you can have an amazing breakthrough experience, feel incredible for a few days, then mysteriously find yourself sliding back into old patterns. Your body is going through withdrawal from its familiar emotional cocktail. It starts sending signals to your brain to think the thoughts and create the situations that will produce those familiar chemicals again. Dr. Joe Dispenza discovered through his research that most people are so addicted to their emotional past that they unconsciously seek out experiences that will make them feel the same way they've always felt. Your body has become the mind. It's calling the shots, not your conscious intentions. Here's the brutal truth. When you try to quantum jump, your body fights you every step of the way. It doesn't care that you want to be abundant or healthy or free. It only cares about chemical consistency. If you've been stressed for years, stress feels normal. If you've been struggling financially, the chemistry of lack feels like home. Your cells have literally become addicted to limitation. Bruce Lipton's research shows that your subconscious mind, which controls 95% of your daily behaviors, is programmed by repetition and emotional intensity. Every time you react to stress the same way, every time you feel frustrated about money, every time you doubt yourself, you're strengthening neural pathways that keep you locked in the same biological patterns. But here's what changes everything. Your body can become addicted to elevated emotions just as easily as it becomes addicted to survival emotions. When you consistently generate feelings of gratitude, excitement, and possibility before you have evidence, you start craving those states instead. Your cells develop receptor sites for joy, confidence, and abundance. The key is understanding that you can't just stop the old emotions. You have to replace them with something stronger. You have to flood your system with such elevated feelings that your body starts preferring the new chemistry over the old one. This is why visualization alone doesn't work. You're not just seeing your future, you're feeling it so intensely that your biology believes it's already happening. Most people give up right at the breakthrough point. They start feeling unfamiliar, uncertain, even uncomfortable as their body adjusts to the new emotional chemistry. But this discomfort isn't a sign you're doing something wrong. It's proof you're breaking free from the chemical prison that's been keeping you trapped. The quantum field responds to coherence, when your thoughts, emotions, and energy are aligned, but your body has to be part of that equation. When you train your biology to crave elevated states instead of familiar limitation, quantum jumping becomes effortless. You're not fighting your chemistry anymore, you're dancing with it. Dr. Joe Dispenza isn't just some motivational speaker throwing around quantum physics buzzwords. He's a neuroscientist who's conducted groundbreaking research with brain imaging technology, documenting real-time changes in brainwave patterns during meditation. His studies show that when people enter coherent meditative states, their brainwaves synchronize in ways that mirror the quantum field itself. He's literally measuring consciousness, creating reality. Dispenza discovered something remarkable through thousands of brain scans. When participants truly feel the emotions of their desired future before it manifests, their brains fire in the exact same patterns as if they were already living that reality. Your nervous system can't tell the difference between an imagined experience and a real one if the emotional intensity is high enough. This isn't theory. This is measurable, reproducible science. His research facilities have documented people healing from Parkinson's disease, multiple sclerosis, and even cancer by changing their internal state, not through positive thinking, but through sustained coherence between their thoughts, emotions, and energy. The quantum field responds to this coherence by reorganizing matter at the cellular level. Dr. Bruce Lipton revolutionized biology by proving that genes don't control your destiny. As a cellular biologist at Stanford University, he discovered that the cell membrane, not the nucleus, is the brain of the cell. The environment surrounding the cell determines which genes get activated, and you control the most important environment of all, your internal chemical state. Lipton's epigenetic research shows that less than 2% of disease comes from genes alone. The other 98% comes from environmental signals, including the energetic messages from your thoughts and emotions. Your consciousness literally rewrites your genetic expression. When you change your perception of reality, you change your biology within hours, not years. His studies reveal that meditation can alter inflammatory gene activity in less than 8 hours. People who shifted their beliefs about their health saw immediate changes in their cellular function. Your subconscious mind, which runs 95% of your life, can be reprogrammed to support abundance instead of survival. This isn't wishful thinking. This is peer-reviewed science. But here's what makes their work revolutionary. Both scientists prove that consciousness isn't produced by the brain. Consciousness is the field that the brain tunes into. You're not a meat robot running biological programs. You're a quantum being temporarily focused through a physical body. And when you align with this truth, when you operate from coherence instead of survival, you become capable of what most people call miracles. Recent quantum physics experiments have validated their core premise. Scientists at Yale University successfully tracked and even reversed quantum jumps in real time, proving that consciousness can influence matter at the subatomic level. The observer effect isn't just theoretical anymore. It's been measured, documented, and replicated. These aren't fringe scientists pushing pseudoscience. They're credentialed researchers whose work is being validated by institutions like NASA, Yale, and Stanford. The quantum field isn't mystical, it's physics. And you have the same power to influence it that particles do. You just have to learn how to use it consciously. The revolution in consciousness research is proving what mystics have known for centuries. You are not separate from the field. You are the field, temporarily focused through individual awareness. And when you remember this, when you embody this truth, quantum jumping becomes as natural as breathing. The real secret isn't visualization. It's becoming so familiar with the emotions of your desired reality that your body believes you're already there. When you wake up feeling grateful for the life you haven't yet lived, when you make decisions from the version of yourself who has already succeeded, you're not pretending. You're tuning into a frequency that already exists. Here's the actual process that works. First, you must get clear about who you're becoming, not just what you want. Most people focus on the external stuff, the money, the relationship, the health. But quantum jumping is about identity transformation. The version of you who has everything you desire thinks differently, feels differently, chooses differently every single day. Step 1 is entering what Dispenza calls the unknown. You sit in meditation and literally move beyond your familiar self. You stop being your name, your history, your body, your environment. You become pure consciousness observing infinite possibility. This isn't about relaxation. This is about crossing a threshold into the quantum field itself. Once you're in this space, you begin to feel the emotions of your desired reality before you have any evidence it exists. This is where most people fail. They try to think their way into abundance while still feeling lack. But the quantum field only responds to your emotional signature, not your mental wishes. You must generate gratitude, excitement, joy, and fulfillment for a future that hasn't happened yet. Your body doesn't know the difference between an experience you're having and one you're imagining with sufficient emotional intensity. When you feel successful, your brain releases the same chemicals as if success was actually happening. Your cells receive the signal that you've already achieved your goals. This begins the biological transformation. Step 3 is mental rehearsal, but not the kind you think. You're not just seeing yourself successful, you're mentally practicing being the person who already has what you want. How do they walk? How do they speak? What decisions do they make effortlessly? You rehearse their thoughts, their confidence, their energy, until it becomes automatic. The breakthrough happens when you combine elevated emotion with clear intention. Dispenza calls this creating a coherent signal. Your thoughts and feelings align toward the same outcome. There's no internal contradiction, no subconscious resistance. Your entire being broadcasts one unified message to the quantum field. But here's the part that separates success from struggle. You must sustain this state, not just for minutes, but for hours. Not just once, but daily. Most people meditate for 10 minutes, feel good, then spend the rest of the day thinking and feeling like their old self. The quantum field responds to your dominant frequency, not your peak moments. The key is becoming comfortable with the unknown. When you try to control how your quantum jump will happen, when it will happen, what it will look like, you're operating from limitation. The field operates beyond linear time and logic. Your job is to align with the outcome and trust the process completely. Mental rehearsal becomes your daily practice. Before you get out of bed, you spend time being your future self. You feel their confidence, their peace, their excitement. You make decisions throughout the day from their perspective. When challenges arise, you ask, how would my quantum self handle this? And you act from that elevated identity. The quantum jump happens when your internal state becomes so aligned with your desired reality that maintaining the old timeline becomes impossible. You're not forcing change. You're embodying it so completely that reality has no choice but to reflect your new frequency back to you. Here's the brutal truth about why most people fail at quantum jumping. And it's not what you think. They don't fail because they don't want it enough, or because they're not spiritual enough. They fail because they didn't understand the mechanics of energetic sabotage. They thought the doubt was harmless. They thought checking for results was normal. They didn't realize that every time they asked, is it working? They were collapsing their new reality and falling back into the orbit of the old self. The biggest mistake people make is treating quantum jumping like a one-time event instead of a sustained state of being. They meditate for 20 minutes, feel amazing, then spend the other 23 hours and 40 minutes thinking and acting like their old self. The quantum field responds to your dominant frequency, not your peak moments. If you're aligned for 20 minutes but survival-minded for the rest of the day, guess which signal wins? Most people sabotage themselves the moment they start looking for proof. In quantum physics, the observer effect shows that measuring a particle changes its state. In human transformation, doubting your shift changes its frequency. You declare a new version of yourself, feel it, act from it. The field begins to respond. But then silence, no proof, no external sign. Your old programming kicks in with thoughts like, maybe I imagined it, or maybe I'm not ready. And in that moment, your frequency collapses back to the familiar. Not because the shift wasn't real, but because you interrupted the signal with fear-based observation. You became the scientist studying your own experiment instead of the consciousness creating it. Another fatal error is trying to control the how and when. People get attached to specific timelines, specific ways their quantum jump should manifest. But the field operates beyond linear time and logic. When you demand that your abundance show up as a specific job by a specific date, you're operating from limitation, not infinite possibility. You're telling the universe exactly how to rearrange itself instead of trusting its intelligence. The addiction to the old emotional chemistry creates another layer of failure. Your body becomes chemically dependent on stress, worry, and struggle. When you start feeling good consistently, your cells go into withdrawal. They send signals to your brain to create drama, to find problems, to generate the familiar emotional cocktails they crave. Most people mistake this biological resistance for evidence that quantum jumping doesn't work. People also fail because they try to think their way into a new reality while still carrying the emotional residue of the old one. They want abundance but still feel poor. They desire confidence but vibrate insecurity. They create what I call mixed signals, broadcasting contradictory frequencies that confuse the quantum field. Coherence means your thoughts, emotions, and actions all point toward the same outcome. The comfort zone becomes a prison disguised as safety. Even when people successfully generate elevated emotions and new thoughts, they unconsciously seek out familiar experiences that will make them feel the same way they've always felt. It's safer to be predictably unhappy than unpredictably abundant. The unknown feels dangerous to a survival-oriented nervous system. Many people give up right before the breakthrough. Quantum jumping often creates chaos before clarity because your new frequency doesn't just attract what you want, it repels what no longer matches. Relationships might shift, opportunities might disappear, old structures might crumble. This isn't failure, it's the field reorganizing to match your new signal. But most people interpret this reorganization as evidence they're doing something wrong. The final failure point is impatience with the process. People expect quantum jumping to work like ordering from Amazon, instant gratification with guaranteed delivery dates. But consciousness transformation operates on its own timeline. The field might be preparing massive shifts that require weeks or months of internal reorganization before they become visible in your external reality. Understanding these failure points isn't about avoiding them perfectly. It's about recognizing them as normal parts of the process, not evidence that you're broken or that quantum jumping doesn't work. Every doubt, every moment of old thinking, every chemical craving for familiar emotions is simply your system testing your commitment to the new timeline. Here's where quantum jumping becomes real or falls apart. The transformation isn't maintained in meditation. It's anchored through consistent daily integration. Most people think they can quantum jump once and everything changes magically. But reality is more like a radio station. You have to keep tuning to the new frequency, or you'll drift back to the old programming. The morning ritual is non-negotiable. Before you check your phone, before you let the world tell you who you are, you spend 10-20 minutes connecting with your future self. In the theta brainwave state right after waking, your subconscious is most receptive to new programming. You visualize, you feel, you become the version of yourself who has already made the jump. But here's what most people miss. Integration happens in the micro moments throughout your day. When you're making decisions, you ask yourself, how would my quantum self handle this situation? When you catch yourself slipping into old emotional patterns, you pause, breathe, and consciously choose the elevated response. This isn't about perfection. It's about conscious course correction. Create physical anchors to maintain the new frequency. Wear a specific piece of jewelry during your quantum jumping sessions, then wear it throughout the day to trigger the elevated state. Use a particular scent, carry a crystal, or have a photo that represents your quantum self. These anchors serve as reminders to return to your elevated identity when you notice yourself drifting. The power of acting as if cannot be overstated. If your quantum self is confident, you walk differently, speak differently, make different choices. If they're abundant, you tip generously, invest in your growth, make decisions from overflow instead of scarcity. You're not pretending or lying to yourself. You're embodying the frequency of the timeline you're choosing. Document everything in a quantum jumping journal. Record the date, your intention, the techniques you used, the sensations you experienced, and most importantly, any shifts you notice in the following days. Writing solidifies your connection to the new reality while building confidence in the process. Track synchronicities, unexpected opportunities, changes in how people respond to you. Energy alignment exercises become part of your daily routine. Practice breathwork, chakra balancing, or qigong to maintain coherence between your thoughts, emotions, and energy field. When your inner state is harmonized, you broadcast a clearer signal to the quantum field. These practices ground the metaphysical work in physical reality. The key is consistency without obsession. Set aside specific times for quantum jumping practice, maybe 3 times a week to start. Create a routine around it, but don't become rigid. The moment you turn it into another item on your to-do list, you've shifted from flow to force. Never attempt quantum jumping when you're emotionally unstable, stressed, or under the influence of substances. Your consciousness needs to be clear and focused. If you're vibrating fear or desperation, you'll attract more situations that match those frequencies. Wait until you can approach the practice from a place of excitement and possibility. Throughout your day, maintain awareness of your energy field and emotional state. When you notice yourself thinking old thoughts or feeling familiar negative emotions, recognize this as the old timeline trying to pull you back. Don't fight it. Simply breathe, place your hand on your heart, and consciously choose to return to your elevated frequency. The real mastery comes when quantum jumping stops being something you do and becomes something you are. When choosing elevated thoughts becomes automatic, when responding from your highest self feels natural, when living in gratitude and possibility becomes your default state. This is when the external world has no choice but to reflect your inner transformation back to you. Here's what changed everything for me, and this might be the most important thing you'll ever hear about quantum jumping. You're not trying to get things. You're not trying to acquire external stuff. You're not even trying to manifest a better life. You are becoming someone. The version of you who has everything you desire already exists. They think differently, feel differently, choose differently. Quantum jumping isn't about acquiring external stuff. It's about remembering and embodying the highest version of yourself. Every day you're faced with micro-choices. Do you react from the old programming or respond from the new identity? Do you scroll mindlessly or invest in your growth? Do you complain about what's missing or feel grateful for what's coming? These small moments are quantum jump opportunities. The most successful people I know aren't necessarily the most talented. They're the ones who became so identified with their future selves that acting from limitation felt impossible. The quantum field is neutral. It doesn't judge your dreams or limit your possibilities. It simply mirrors back whatever frequency you consistently broadcast. Recent experiments at Yale University proved that quantum jumps aren't instantaneous. They're gradual processes that can be observed, predicted, and even reversed. This means consciousness has real influence over matter at the quantum level. You are the observer, the creator, the quantum jumper. Your future self is reaching across time, trying to get your attention right now. They're whispering through your intuition, pulling you toward opportunities, sending you signs. The question is whether you'll listen, whether you'll have the courage to release who you've been to become who you're meant to be. The leap isn't as big as you think. It's happening right now, with this breath, with this choice, with this moment of deciding that the old version of your life is no longer acceptable. The field is waiting. Your quantum self is calling. The timeline where you're abundant, free, and fulfilled already exists. All the knowledge, all the confidence, all the resources you need are already programmed into that version of you. You don't have to figure out how to become them. You just have to stop being everyone else. Stop waiting for your life to change and become the person who changes it. Stop hoping for different results while thinking the same thoughts and feeling the same emotions. The quantum field responds to coherence, to the alignment of your thoughts, emotions, and actions toward the same outcome. When these three elements point in the same direction, reality has no choice but to reorganize around your signal. This isn't theory anymore. This is science. This is your power. This is your invitation to step beyond the limitations of linear thinking and into the infinite field of possibility where every version of you exists simultaneously, waiting for you to choose. The only question left is whether you're ready to jump. If this resonates with something deep inside you, if you can feel that whisper of possibility getting louder, then smash that subscribe button right now. You're not just subscribing to a channel, you're declaring to the quantum field that you're ready for more. You're joining a community of quantum jumpers who refuse to settle for ordinary reality. Hit the like button if this shifted something in your consciousness. Every like sends a signal that this information needs to reach more people who are ready for transformation. And in the comments below, I want you to write one word. Just one powerful word that represents the timeline you're choosing to jump into. It could be abundance, freedom, health, love, whatever captures the essence of your quantum leap. Your comment isn't just for me or this community. It's a declaration to the field itself. It's you planting a flag in the new reality and claiming your space there. The quantum field is always listening, always responding. Make your declaration now.